Let's embark on an exciting movie adventure that begins with a train journey through a deserted area. On this train, we meet Virgil, a rugged-looking man who's enjoying his meal of bread. Across from him, a woman is doing her best to calm her fussy baby. Eventually, the train comes to a stop, prompting Virgil to disembark. But before he leaves, he kindly shares his remaining bread with the woman. Now outside the train, Virgil heads to a nearby shop, hoping to gather information about someone he's searching for. However, the owner of the shop seems completely disinterested, engrossed in the television instead. Undeterred, Virgil then asks the owner for directions to the restroom, only to receive a response in a language he doesn't understand. Despite the language barrier, Virgil perseveres and eventually discovers a less than pleasant restroom filled with flies. Reluctantly, he decides to use it to relieve himself. While he's inside, a mysterious individual asks if Virgil is waiting for someone to go to a compound. Virgil affirms his purpose, and the person departs. As Virgil washes his face in the restroom, another stranger approaches him and advises against wasting water. This encounter leaves Virgil with a lingering sense of caution. In the following scene, we find Virgil accompanied by Keith, a truck driver who's transporting him to the compound. During their journey, Keith takes the opportunity to explain the cost of their transportation. Virgil is surprised when he discovers that the fee is more expensive than he thought. He was expecting it to be only $200. It's really hot, so Virgil tries to cool down by turning on the air conditioning in the truck, but Keith warns him that it could damage the engine. They continue driving for a while, but then one of the truck's tires suddenly bursts, forcing them to stop and replace it. While they're changing the tire, they come across two wild dogs fighting with each other. Keith intervenes, chasing away the healthy dog and putting the injured one out of its misery. After fixing the tire, they get back on the road. Later, they make a stop to refuel the truck. Since it's already nighttime, they decide to rest for the day and resume their journey the next morning. During their time together at night, Keith asks Virgil why he wants to go to the compound. Virgil explains that he's searching for a great opportunity and firmly believes he can find it there. However, Keith, who is familiar with the compound, tries to caution Virgil that it's not the best place for opportunities. He tells him that it mainly involves hard work. Nevertheless, Virgil asserts that he's not afraid of hard work. The following morning, Virgil takes over driving while Keith rests in the passenger seat. After some time on the road, Virgil starts feeling extremely hot due to the scorching sun outside, prompting him to crank up the air conditioning to its maximum setting. The truck shudders and groans as its engine gives out, leaving them stranded on the side of the road. Keith's face turns red with anger as he scolds Virgil and demands him to pull over immediately. Virgil, feeling remorseful, quickly apologizes and rushes off to relieve himself in the nearby bushes. But as he returns to the truck, something catches his eye, an intriguing cluster of rocks hidden beneath the dirt. His curiosity piqued, Virgil brushes away the grime to uncover a stunning surprise. Gold? Unable to contain his excitement, he calls out to Keith, urging him to witness the incredible discovery. Keith joins Virgil, his eyes widening as he watches his companion ignite his lighter and press it against the rock. They hold their breath, hoping for a transformation, but the gold remains unchanged, confirming their astonishing find. Determined to claim their newfound fortune, they grab their shovels and dig feverishly, desperate to unearth the precious metal. Yet, despite their relentless efforts, the mammoth rock remains firmly entrenched, mocking their strength. Undeterred, the duo devises a plan. With a rope securely fastened to the truck, they give it their all, attempting to yank the stubborn rock free. But their combined force proves futile as the rope slips loose, leaving them disheartened and exhausted. As evening descends, Keith ventures into the wilderness, searching for firewood to keep them warm and ward off the lurking danger of wild dogs. He warns Virgil about the menacing creatures and emphasizes the importance of fire for protection. Eager to lend a hand, Virgil joins Keith in gathering an ample supply of firewood. With the crackling flames illuminating their faces, they sit in awe, marveling at their incredible stroke of luck. Keith's excitement reaches its peak, causing him to leap into the air, shouting in sheer jubilation. However, reality soon sets in. Faced with the immovable rock and their limited means, Keith suggests a bold solution. He proposes that one of them should venture into town, seeking assistance from friendly contacts who can lend them an excavator, a mighty machine capable of liberating their coveted gold. Keith insists that Virgil should be the one to make the journey into town. He believes Virgil won't be able to handle the harsh and isolated environment for an extended period. But Virgil has a different plan in mind. He suggests that Keith should be the one to go and bring back an excavator while he stays behind to protect the precious gold. Virgil admits that he doesn't know the new town and lacks the necessary connections. Keith double-checks if Virgil is absolutely sure about his decision. Without hesitation, Virgil confidently declares that he is tough and fully capable of handling whatever comes his way. The next morning arrives, and Keith gets ready to depart. He prepares a survival package for Virgil, consisting of canned food, water, and a small tent cloth for shelter. Before leaving, he hands Virgil a satellite phone for communication and a pocket knife for self-defense. Keith estimates that it will take about 5 days for him to return with the excavator. He advises Virgil to remain vigilant and take good care of himself during the wait. With a heartfelt farewell, Keith sets off on his journey, leaving Virgil to fend for himself. Virgil wastes no time. He takes the tent cloth and cleverly ties it to a nearby tree, creating a makeshift shelter to shield him from the elements. Eager to ensure communication is possible, he checks the satellite phone to confirm it is in working order. With that settled, Virgil ventures out into the surrounding area to scavenge for firewood, a crucial resource for the night ahead. As Virgil returns triumphantly with a bundle of firewood, he encounters an unexpected visitor near his shelter, a scorpion on the prowl. Undeterred, Virgil grabs a piece of wood and fearlessly chases the unwelcome critter away, asserting his dominance over his territory. As the sun begins to set, casting a mesmerizing glow across the landscape, Virgil settles by the crackling fire, warming up his canned food for a satisfying meal. However, the tranquility of the night is shattered by the distant sounds of wild dogs engaged in an intense quarrel. Virgil's senses sharpen and his worries intensify as he wonders what dangers lurk in the darkness beyond his flickering campfire. As a result, Virgil tightly grips his pocket knife, feeling nervous and on edge. The following morning, Virgil wakes up feeling sick and tired. He hurriedly rushes to vomit, but he's concerned about wasting water to clean himself up. Just as Virgil tries to compose himself, the satellite phone rings, but he's too slow to answer and the call ends abruptly, leaving him frustrated. Restless, Virgil explores the area and stumbles upon a crashed plane. He considers using it as a shelter, but realizes it won't provide a view of the gold, so he gives up on the idea. However, he gathers some parts from the plane and constructs a makeshift shelter. Exhausted from his efforts, Virgil dozes off for a while. Upon waking up, Virgil discovers that part of his face is sunburned from the intense sunlight. He sits beside the gold and begins talking to himself, brainstorming ideas. Suddenly, he feels inspired and decides to attempt breaking off a piece of the gold. Determined, he strikes the gold repeatedly with a rock until he successfully breaks off a small but heavy chunk. Just as he celebrates his accomplishment, the satellite phone rings, and he answers it eagerly. Keith informs him that it will take longer than expected to arrive because his truck's engine keeps overheating. Virgil excitedly shares the news of his successful breakage with Keith. Keith suggests that Virgil stay close to the gold and assures him that he will do his best to reach him as soon as possible. As night falls, Virgil positions himself right beside the gold, remaining alert. A group of wild dogs approaches, sensing his presence. Virgil uses the firewood to scare the dogs away and protect himself. The next morning, Virgil manages to pour some water into a bottle and takes a much-needed drink. At the same time, he notices a striped snake getting closer to him. Determined to defend himself, he tries to kill the snake, but it manages to escape. When he turns back, he realizes that in the process, he accidentally knocked over the bottle, spilling most of the water. In a later instance, Virgil once again ventures to the site of the plane crash, driven by his relentless quest for additional wreckage to fortify his shelter. As he stands amidst the remnants, he becomes aware of someone approaching. Swiftly, he takes refuge inside the plane, concealing himself from view. After a while, the stranger reaches the plane and implores Virgil to reveal himself. To his surprise, the stranger turns out to be a woman, extending an offering of food and drink. However, Virgil staunchly refuses her generosity, declining anything she offers. Inquisitive, the woman probes Virgil about his motives and how he found himself in the desert, but he remains silent, ignoring her inquiries. Eventually, Virgil suggests she seek shelter within the plane, bidding her farewell as he departs. Yet, the woman's suspicions persist, convinced that Virgil harbors secrets. Soon after, the woman begins to pursue Virgil, relentlessly bombarding him with questions about his origins and presence in the desert. Irritated by her incessant probing, Virgil confronts her, asserting his need for privacy and demanding that she refrain from interfering in his affairs. Meanwhile, the woman catches sight of Virgil's shelter and starts to approach it, intent on dismantling it and forcing him to leave. Enraged by her actions, Virgil strikes her with a shovel, resulting in her instantaneous demise. Seizing the opportunity, he takes valuable items from her backpack and proceeds to bury her near his shelter. However, the wild dogs soon discover the buried body and attempt to unearth it, prompting Virgil to chase them away. Determined to protect her resting place, he drags the woman's remains to a different location and, with a heavy heart and tears streaming down his face, uses firewood to cremate her. The following morning, Virgil awakens to the sound of a ringing satellite phone. He hurriedly answers it, finding Keith on the other end, informing him of his successful discovery of the excavator. However, Keith explains that it will take additional time to reach Virgil due to the excavator's weight slowing his progress. Before ending the call, Keith offers words of encouragement, urging Virgil to remain steadfast. Later on, as Virgil catches sight of a passing truck, his insatiable greed for more gold prevents him from seizing the opportunity to escape. While searching for firewood later in the day, he notices an approaching sandstorm and hastily retreats to his shelter, seeking safety within its fragile walls. In a sudden fury, a violent storm ravaged Virgil's shelter, compelling him to flee for his very survival. Amidst the chaos, a brutal impact from a wayward tree branch inflicted a deep and agonizing wound upon him. As the tempest subsided, Virgil regained consciousness beneath a mound of sand, the branch lodged in his stomach. Curiously, instead of removing it, an intense desire to uncover the hidden treasure gripped him tightly. Summoning his strength, he unearthed a colossal and glistening rock of gold, its brilliance overwhelming his senses, and he succumbed to unconsciousness beside the precious bounty. Later, with great resolve, Virgil braved the excruciating pain to extract the impaling branch, unleashing a crimson torrent that stained the desert floor. With tear-filled eyes, he managed to start a fire and heat a can, using its searing heat to cleanse and disinfect his grievous wound. In a desperate attempt to regain clarity, he smeared his face with sand, but the overwhelming exhaustion eventually overcame him, and he collapsed once more. Upon awakening, Virgil's dazed vision locked onto a woman who poised a crossbow at him, stirring haunting images of the woman he had previously slain. Unexpectedly, she offered him a life-saving drink of water before vanishing into thin air, leaving Virgil bewildered by the realization that his mind had deceived him. Amidst the confusion, the satellite phone's ring pierced the silence, and he struggled to retrieve it from the sandy depths. Sharing his encounter with Keith, he was advised to rid himself of the hallucinations swiftly. As the call concluded, the ethereal figure of the woman re-emerged, extending a hand of assistance. Driven by his insatiable greed and fixation on the coveted gold, Virgil erupted in anger, demanding her immediate departure. Before vanishing, she inquired about her missing sister, but Virgil maintained a resolute silence, fully aware that his hallucinations had resurfaced once again. In a later scene, Virgil awakens to a haunting sight: the charred remains of extinguished fires and a pack of wild dogs encircling him. Desperate for help, he reaches out to Keith, urgently inquiring about his location. Keith's reassuring response assures Virgil that he is nearby and will arrive shortly. Overwhelmed by fear, Virgil pleads through the phone for Keith to hurry, as the ferocious dogs close in, ready to attack. Unbeknownst to Virgil, Keith is not far away, surveilling him from a distance with binoculars, maintaining a watchful eye. As the tension builds, Keith remains a silent observer, patiently biding his time. He witnesses the savage pack descend upon Virgil, dragging him away, their feral hunger consuming him. Even in the midst of his dire predicament, Virgil's gaze remains transfixed on the captivating allure of the gold. After some time has passed, Keith arrives at the scene, his truck hauling an excavator behind it. He gazes down at Virgil's lifeless body, momentarily contemplating his next move. Retrieving something from his truck, Keith turns around, only to be struck by a sudden arrow to his chest. Collapsing to the ground, Keith desperately searches for the assailant, but the surrounding emptiness offers no answers. The movie concludes, leaving the mystery of who shot Keith